Okay, so a new One Punch Man chapter just dropped like an hour ago or something, and I know I'm kind of late to this, and if you hear like an echo in the background, then that's because I'm in like a room with a lot more echo just for this video, just because some complications happen. But apart from that, this chapter is called Absolute Evil, which is chapter 165 of the One Punch Man manga. And of course, if you guys haven't been seeing a lot of uploads on the channel, then that is because I'm working on a huge video that will be dropping in like maybe a week or two from now. So yeah, I'm just probably going to be uploading maybe once a week for like maybe 2 weeks until the video drops. But apart from that, let's just get into this because there's quite a lot of stuff to talk about. But of course, you already know, before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new, because if you can't already tell, this place is a hub for One Punch Man. So if you like One Punch Man, then this place is probably for you. But let's just get into it. This chapter pretty much starts off with the narrator basically just saying that Garo has gained knowledge of the flow of all energy and the behavior of all forces in the universe. And this fight pretty much just straight up starts off with Saitama versus Garo, and Garo uses all life eradication fist nuclear fission, and this just is straight at Saitama's face. And as soon as this connects, it like creates like almost like a nuclear explosion or something similar to that, of course. And we see the guys from the boat, like, when Saitama did his serious punch on evil ocean water, and the guy is saying, or the system is saying, decontamination system activated for all sections of the vessel. And of course, the people on the boat are pretty like shocked about just how immense this attack was from Garo. Of course, they don't know what's going on, but I guess the impact, of course, they can see. And some guy on the boat says a nuclear attack, and we see in the next like 2 panels or so this crazy explosion that Garo created just from that one attack on Saitama. And we see that Psychos in the distance, she's like half naked, is looking in the distance at this power from Garo, and she says divine power, they are so massive. And she basically kind of, I guess, compares it to Homeless Emperor's energy spheres, which I guess is kind of like a bit of a connection between God and the type of powers he normally gives, which is something similar to Homeless Emperor, and that's why he gave the same sort of power to Garo in a sense. But of course, Homeless Emperor and Garo are on completely different levels, but I guess the nature of their, abilities are somewhat similar, you could say. But then in the next panel, we see the crazy, the crazy drawings from Murata from the impact of this attack. And again, it looks like nuclear explosions, like multiple nuclear explosions. And in the next panel, we get like a whole like animated sequence, colored animated sequence, which is pretty cool as well. Another pretty cool addition to the One Punch Man manga, which just keeps getting better. But anyway, moving on, we see that Genos also then is, he's with the other heroes, and he's looking at Saitama take on this attack, and he says in his head, Sensei. And we see that obviously, Saitama is not affected by this, by this attack from Garo. And we see that his clothes have actually started to rip, which I guess that obviously means that it has done some damage. But, the durability of Saitama's clothes, I guess, it's pretty debatable. But, because Saitama has, survived, or Saitama's suit has survived some pretty strong attacks. But, moving on, we see that Garo says he feels like he can do anything now. And he goes in and uses another mode. It's not actually an attack, but this is a completely different mode. And he says in martial arts, there are secret techniques called shake that borrow the power of nature by imitating the movements of all living things, though I call them modes, which sounds cooler. And he says, for example, and we go into his first mode that he shows, which is just straight up Saitama, and we see Garo copy Saitama's ability, or copy Saitama's move, consecutive normal punches. But then Saitama then tries to counter with his own consecutive normal punches, but this time, surprisingly, Garo managed to overpower Saitama's normal punches and sends him flying, or not overpower him, but I guess equal out the strength of Saitama's consecutive normal punches, and sends them both flying backwards. And as they both fall, they both get back up, obviously, and shoot up into the air. And Garo says, is this the first time someone has matched you in an exchange of blows? You seem at a loss for words. And obviously, Saitama is pretty nonchalant about this whole thing. And moving on, Garo then just goes straight into another attack, which is called All Life Eradication Fist Gamma Ray Burst. And this attack is completely dead. This is like one of the only times, or one of the rare times, we see Garo in the recent chapters use like an energy based like attack, which I guess could mean that, of course, God's abilities, once again, it's kind of derived from just energy and just like energy balls or energy, or I guess you could just say God's powers that he gives to people are normally energy based and not really anything else, which of course could be disproven later on. But from the trends of Homeless Emperor and Garo, you know, we can pretty much guess that God normally gives people like energy type of abilities. And of course, this attack is completely devastating because Saitama can't actually dodge this attack, which is surprising. And Saitama actually takes this attack head on, and we don't actually see what happens to Saitama after this, because we shift our attention away back to the S-class heroes, you know, just kind of on the sidelines watching this fight. And we see that, of course, Metal Bat manages to wake up, but then we see that Amai Masks asks Flashy Flash why he has a monster with him. And of course, Flashy Flash, I'm not sure if he's serious or he's making, you know, like an excuse for Monaco, but Flashy Flash says he found an exotic animal that was useful for lighting up the darkness. But all of a sudden, this comedic sequence is interrupted by Garo striking back down onto the earth. And as we know, earlier on, he says that he's going to, I guess, you know, remind the S-class heroes how powerless they are, which is why he used the Gamma Ray Burst on Saitama to get rid of him for the time being, or maybe just to try to get rid of him completely, who knows. But then we see that Garo goes, you know, he, I guess, confronts the S-class heroes and the other heroes, and he stands in front of them, and you know, the narrator says, at that moment, all the heroes present knew beyond doubt that the source of that massive explosion of energy was this monster. And of course, Bang, you know, kind of recovered from his whole fight against Garo earlier on, or pre-awakened Garo earlier on in the chapters, and he says Garo, and he recognizes that this pressure is Garo. And of course, Zombie Man and Flashy Flash have realized this pressure, and they both know that they are completely outclassed by this new form of Garo. And Garo, well, in this next panel, is pretty cool. It's like a double spread. It says, the symbol of fear that brings all heroes to despair, absolute evil. And I'm pretty sure at this point it's pretty much confirmed that Garo has finally achieved this, I guess, goal of his to become absolute evil. And Garo looks up into the air and says, thank you. And as, you know, Bang is crawling on the floor, Bang says, Garo, is that you? And we see that Garo is actually explaining to Bang what happened to him. And we get revealed that, you know, Garo actually didn't accept God's influence. Instead, he rejected it. But the only reason he became a monster is because he made physical contact with God, which I guess reveals another thing about God, that you don't actually have to accept or, like, you know, go through like a whole, I guess, kind of deal with him. Instead, you just have to touch him, and you know, he can transmit his power into you, which is essentially what happened to Garo. But instead, Garo hasn't become what God wanted him to completely. God wanted to make Garo his avatar, you know, to, you know, control him fully. But Garo was actually able to regain his consciousness, and he's managed to actually control this power, and he's managed to, I guess, just complete what he always wanted to do, which is become absolute evil. And then obviously, you know, at the end of the chapter, we see that Garo says, sorry, Tario, this is goodbye. Time to conduct evil. And that is the end of the chapter. And of course, once again, this chapter is very, very interesting. But of course, I might save that for another video. But I will briefly say that Garo is probably becoming more similar to the webcomic than, of course, you know, we thought he was going to be when we saw that whole thing with Saitama and Garo sitting at the table. So I'm pretty sure we're going to get a more webcomic styled end of this arc, like pretty much most people wanted it to. But apart from that, that's pretty much all I have to say for this video. If you liked the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. But apart from that, I'll see you in my next video.